Go ahead, Gary, whenever you're ready.
All right, so I'll call the meeting to order of the Hutchinson City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. Roll call. Mary.
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Steve.
Steve, aye.
Dave.
Here.
Do we have to say who else is here, Matt, or not?
No.
All right. Approve the council agenda. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Mayor and Council, I don't have any additions or corrections for you tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Chad to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, roll call. Roll call. Chad.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have somebody here for invocation, Matt?
Yes, we do, Mayor.
Invocations from River at MSP Church. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and other faculty and staff. God bless you. Let's go to prayer. Father God, we thank you tonight, Lord, again for this opportunity, Lord, that we have to come together, Lord, to put our minds together, Lord, as we look at what needs to happen in this city, in this region. And Father, we thank you for your wisdom right now, Lord, upon each and every single person, upon every city council member, the mayor, again, the staff here. Father God, we just thank you right now, Lord, for what you're doing in this area. Lord, we just, again, ask for your protection upon our lives, Father God, upon the lives of the people of Hutchinson and the surrounding areas. That, Father God, we thank you that you are working out your perfect plan, Father God, for each and every single one of us. And Lord, we just ask you right now that you give us clear direction, Lord, and guidance as we move forward, Lord, to put things back in order. And Lord, that you will cause us to prosper in everything we put our hand to. We give you the thanks, Lord, and the glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
All right, we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, I always like doing that, so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, that didn't work very good, but had to be done. Recognitions of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. We have a resolution underneath there. Resolution number 15162, resolution accepting $60 donation from Roger and Mary Meese for the Law Enforcement Memorial Park.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Dave to approve. Roll call. Chad.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Gary. Aye. Motion carried. Public comment. Anybody? Matt, do we have anybody out for public comment?
No, we don't, Your Mayor.
All right. Approval of minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes of April 14th, 2020.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Mary to approve the minutes of April 14th, 2020. Roll call. Chad.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Gary. Aye. Motion carries. Consent agenda, this will be done with one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. Approval of resolution number 15163, resolution calling for public hearing on the proposed adoption of modifications to the development program for development district number 4 and the proposed establishment of a tax increment financing district 4-21 and the adoption of a tax increment financing plan therefore. B is approval of items for the airport area utility expansion, letting number 4, project number 20-4. And under there we have two resolutions. We have resolution number 15164, resolution ordering preparation of reports on improvements, and resolution number 15165, resolution receiving reports and calling for hearing on improvements. C is approval of resolution number 15166, resolution adopting finding of facts and reasons for approval of a conditional use permit for a storage building located at 720 Airport Road, Upper Midwest AC Club, application with favorable planning commission recommendation. D is approval of resolution number 15167, resolution adopting finding of facts and reason for approval of a preliminary and final plat for White Hawk Village, second edition, with favorable planning commission recommendation. E is approval of City Alley number 40 improvements. That's the alley by the VFW location. F is approval of Century Avenue Southeast water main reconfiguration. G is approval of South Grade Road, School Road to Dale with 2-minute overlay. H is approval of city letter of support U.S. Highway 212 federal discretionary grant program application. I is appointment and reappointments to boards and commissions. Appointment of Nicole Grove to the Hutchinson Housing Redevelopment Authority Board to August 2025. Appointment of Julia Lofdahl to the Library Board to April of 2023. Appointment of Carol Ulrich to the Library Board to April of 2023. Appointment of the Sustainability Board, Nathan Winters to May of 2021, John Lofdahl to May of 2022, Andy Nissen to May of 2023, Jeremy Carter to May of 2021, and Steve Cook will be our council representative on that board. And J is claims appropriation contract payments, register A. Is there anything anybody wants pulled off for discussion? Steve?
I'd like C and had a quick question on G.
All right, C and G. All right, can we have a motion to
So moved.
approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Chad, second by Dave to approve the balance. Any other discussion? Roll call, Chad,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Gary, aye. All right, C, on the one for the Midwest AC Club, Steve?
Yeah, I just saw in the notes that the plans actually showed a gravel driveway and there was a reference that it really needed to be paved, and didn't really say anything about the parking lot, and had talked to Dan, and he suggested that another condition be added for that. I see Dan's here, right?
Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, as Steve noted, we had in the report that we were suggesting that the parking lot and the driveway be paved. However, I neglected to add that into the conditions. So I would suggest adding a condition that notes that both the driveway and the parking lot need to be paved with an improved surface.
So with that, I would approve item C with that additional condition.
All right. We have a
I'll
second.
second.
This motion by Steve, second by Chad to approve with the condition of paving and driveway and parking lot. Roll call. Chad,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Gary, aye. G, Steve,
Yeah, I don't know if Kent's here, but I was just wondering when that project will be done.
Steve, John Olson, Public Works Manager. I can't answer that question right away. It'll determine, based on what the contractor's schedule is. This is, the intent would be to do the majority of this under traffic, but there might be a portion of it where we have to close down to do some of the intersection work and things like that. So we'll do whatever we can to make sure it's done at a time when, there's less activity at the school, which should be not a problem, at least for the foreseeable future. So, but that's what we'll have to work out, is scheduling that. So certainly
Okay.
the milling could be done anytime.
All right, I was just curious, since it'll be nice to have that done. Make a motion to approve item G.
I'll second that.
motion by Steve, second by Mary to approve item G. Roll call. Chad,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Gary, aye. Motion carries. All right, claims and appropriations, contract payments, register B. I have a check on that for my company, and I believe Chad, you do too, correct?
I do.
So we will be abstaining.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Dave to approve consent agenda 2. Roll call. Mary,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
with me and Chad abstaining. Motion carries. We do not have a public hearing. Discussion of amending chapter 112 liquor regulations to allow hotels.
Mayor and council, I think everyone should have received a copy of the letter that was in your packet from Cobblestone Hotel and Suites, and I know we do have a representative here at the meeting tonight, but we do have a request into us to consider amending our ordinance to allow hotels to have listed on sale license. You have to have an on sale license. Currently, that's not allowed by our city ordinance, but it is allowed by state law. It's just not been something that we have granted in the past. And so that's the request that's come in front of the council. And so if it's a desire of the council to look at adding that, we would draft some language for an ordinance for your consideration, most likely at the next council meeting.
I guess I had two questions. I'm okay with it generally. This is Steve. But I was wondering if it would be like a club license where it would just be for guests of the hotel and maybe their guests. And then the second question was, you know, if we do this, I think all the other bars and restaurants are closed right now. So because of the pandemic, would this also be closed until things open up again?
Yes, Steve, to answer your first question, state law states that it has to be open to the public. So it couldn't be a public, or couldn't be a club license. So it has to be an on sale. I guess, Mark, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
No, that's accurate. It has to be to the public.
On your computer, Mark.
There was a lot of feedback coming back through. Mark, could you say that again, please?
Yeah, as Matt had indicated, it has to be open to the public.
I guess, this Gary, hey, I know Deb is there. What hours would they be serving?
Right now,
Kevin, would you come up to me?
we're going long. Hi, my
State your
name is
name.
Deb Brewer. I'm the general manager at the Cobblestone Hotel here in Hutchinson. Currently, our hours are 4:30 in the afternoon until 11:30 at night. That's what we're currently open. I think there was some question on whether our bar or restaurant would be open now during the pandemic. Currently, we are not serving coffee, we are not serving tea, we are not serving breakfast. Our pool is closed, our fitness center is closed, so we're conforming with all the wishes of the state. So I would assume that the bar would not be open at this time either until things settle in and you know, instructions are given, permission is given, I guess I should say.
This is Mary. I just have a question for you, Deb.
Sure.
When you say, are you talking just guests, you know, people who are at the hotel, or what if people rent the room? You know, they would have access to all the liquor too? You know, if you're having a party there, a gathering?
Yes, they would. At least that was my understanding. It is. Some of this happened before I actually came on board, but it was my understanding that initially that a full license was part of the hotel plan. Generally speaking, the design of the Cobblestone Lounge, the properties that are designed that way, and we've got that logo on the front of our building. The franchise networks, they do have full licenses. We'd certainly work within any direction that we were given. Right now, the lounge, however, is separate from the meeting room that you're talking about. But if they would choose to come in, say they were having a anniversary or, you know, something like that, if they would choose to come into the lounge, I would request that would be allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Did I answer that?
Yes, you did.
All right, okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I guess from a personal standpoint, you know, I'm a native, I was born and raised here. I would love the opportunity to feature the winery's wine and the brewery's beer and, you know, help build, you know, their businesses as well by bringing those in. I'm sure we'd offer other brands as well, but, you know, that's kind of a dream of mine, is to work with my co-businesses and show off what Hutch has to offer, I guess.
This is Steve.
Yes.
Deb, you mentioned the restaurant.
Yes.
Do you have a menu Or is
I
it-
would call it strictly, it's not going to be a full-blown restaurant by any means, but there easily would be what I would call finger foods, if you will. Your mozzarella sticks, your French fries, your onion rings, possibly during the winter seasons, chili or pulled beef sandwiches, pulled pork sandwiches. We do not have a full kitchen area. So we don't have fryers as an example. That would all be done either in a air fryer and or convection oven situation.
Okay. Matt and Mark, how does that jive then with our food requirement if we grant the license in this situation?
Well, I guess Steve, to answer that question, what's being asked is to add hotel to the license. And so if we were to add hotel to our on-sale license allowability, if you want to say, the state does not require that there's a menu. All it states is that it needs to be basically a dining room that's open to the public that can sit at least 30 people. My assumption is, and I don't know if that's maybe why the city has in the past left hotels off of that list. I can't really answer that.
But restaurants, I mean, other places in the state have bars that don't have any food requirement. We do here.
Sorry, Steve, you cut out there for a second.
I said other establishments, other communities in the state have bars and don't have any food requirement as part of their liquor license. But we do here in town. So I'm just trying to see if we're, being fair to everybody, treating everybody the same. That's all.
Even I guess to answer that question, restaurants do require to have food. If we were to allow hotels, that's not a requirement of state law.
We don't have bars though, do we? Just simple bars.
And we only have restaurants.
Correct. All we have is just restaurants.
And I mean, I don't know how to, there'd be pizzas that would be offered, hot dogs, egg rolls, like I say, not a prime rib dinner by any means, but I guess what you'd refer to as pub grub or bar food.
Yeah. And this comes into play where a restaurant has to have a certain percentage of their sales from food versus alcohol.
Yeah, and I had asked about that. There was something, and they said that we didn't need to comply with the 40%. I've been kind of going back and forth with the council trying to figure out, or not, with the city.
Yep, and that's the difference between restaurants and hotels.
Okay.
So I go back then, why don't we allow bars?
We can if they want, right?
I guess that's.
So here.
Those are the 5 elected officials' decision.
No, I mean, that's a difference here. That's why I bring it up. That's all. I think it's great to have the food available that you're talking about. It'd be a lot easier if it was just more or less for the guests that were staying there and their
Yes,
so,
guests. It would be hard to police.
right. Yep.
But
Well, it's just like the clubs were too. So that was just
certainly
supposed to
could
be
try
for
our best.
club members.
yeah.
Mary, you had a comment?
No, I was just gonna say, I'm not opposed to this, not at all. I think, if you can have that for your guests, and if somebody's having an anniversary or a significant party there, that I would take into consideration that it would be well taken care of and monitored, and you'd abide by all the rules, and it would be okay.
Well, and it's really just to enhance the guests. I mean, you're spot on, to enhance the guests' experience. at the hotel, be accommodating.
Right. Thank you, Deb.
Yes, you're welcome.
I would be okay with allowing it as well.
Honestly, Chad, or everybody, I don't think that Cobblestone would be a destination for people that go out to drink. I think it'd be more or less for the guests. So I would go along with it.
And once again, what you guys are asking for tonight is simply if you want to put an ordinance together. Obviously,
Right.
some of the discussion about the details that you're talking about, those are certain things that we can potentially look into. Like I said, I think we feel fairly comfortable that it has to be open to the public. You have to have those other aspects of it regarding the seating capacity. I think Steve raises some good points. Those have been decisions that have been made by certain councils in the past. Doesn't mean it can't be changed, but obviously those are conversation pieces for you guys as elected officials to discuss when it comes to looking at those policies.
Say, Deb,
Yes.
this is Dave Sebesta. Do you allow booze into your beer and wine and hard liquor into your motel? Do you not?
In the guest rooms, and also if they keep it contained in the meeting room. It can't roam around the halls technically.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Matt, do we need a motion to
No, we
have
don't need
this?
motion, not for any action, it's not for discussion. I guess based off of the feedback that I had tonight, staff will look at drafting an ordinance for the council to consider. And we'll be in touch with Cobblestone on kind of how that process plays out. And just, I guess, a brief summary, all of our ordinances require 2 hearings. So the first reading would take place, if council's comfortable with it, at our first meeting in May.
Okay.
With the second reading taking place, if it were to move on to that, at the second meeting in May. So at the earliest, it would be approved at the May 26th council meeting.
Very good. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. I'm usually at the hotel.
And just to be clear, Deb, I
Yes.
appreciate it. I think, like you said, it'll enhance the experience, but just had some of those questions I wanted to ask about.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Steve.
Alrighty, moving on, discussion of refunding license fees. And I guess I should bring this up because I asked Matt to look into it. I just thought that since some of these businesses aren't able to bring any revenue in, I just thought that we could, maybe prorate their license until this they're opened back up for business. So I'll just open it up for discussion.
I think it's a good idea.
I'm fine with it. I think it's a good idea also. It's
I'm
Mary.
fine with it.
So you're still talking about the ones that are serving out the back doors, curb service?
Yeah, it is curb service too, but I mean, they're not really running full,
Okay. I just wondering if you're
So-
including them.
It's the liquor part is where I understand they can, do a 6-pack of beer or a bottle of wine, but, they're not having people come
Yeah.
into the bar area. So
Yes.
that's
Agreed.
kind of, so.
Agreed.
Just to be clear with that though, Gary, this is Steve. In the packet, Matt and Mark noted a lot of other licenses that those folks are closed for now, so they
Yeah,
should be included too.
Right, the beauty, you're talking, Steve, you're talking beauty salons. Matt, I don't have the list in front of me. Matt, can you just run down the list for us?
Some of them that come to mind, you have the massage licenses. I think we do have one catering license that we've issued. Some of the smoke shops, tobacco shops would be included in that list. The tap room. So there's about probably 7 or 8 different licenses. And what I would do, once again, this is on for discussion tonight. So what we would do from staff is essentially adopt a resolution. And I think the way we would probably do it was just have it be that it's a prorated refund of based off of however weeks, months that they're required to, I guess, have limited business or shut down. And so that would give us, so obviously not knowing how much longer the stay-at-home order is going to be in effect, that would give us some flexibility to make those refunds as things open up.
So everybody fine with staff looking into that?
Yes.
I am.
Chad,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Steve?
Yep.
All right. All right, Matt, that's all you need on that?
Yep, we'll put a resolution together for your next council meeting.
All righty, thank you. Hutchinson Police Department Annual Report. Is Chief Gifferson there?
Present.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First, I should start off by saying I'm honored to be the first person to present their year-end report to a virtual council. Probably not the best way to do it, but hopefully you received a cover letter in the packet. Matt and I had a discussion about how we should try to go about doing this, and the decision was made to just present you with the report, point out a few highlights, and then allow you to ask any questions that you may have. So that's where I'm at. So I'm open for questions.
So, Chief Gifferson, this is Mary.
Yep.
I see that we've had some officers resign and they've moved on to other cities, and that's kind of the normal. As I went through this, I noticed that the burglaries were up in 2019 compared to 2018. And do you know, is there a reason for that? I mean, not that maybe you would know, but I just thought that there was more burglaries and thefts, and the domestics had doubled.
Sure. So I noticed those same things that you noticed. The burglaries, that varies year to year. They did double from 2018 to 2019, but they do remain consistent with the previous 5-year statistics. So 2018 could have been an anomaly, could have been reported differently, or burglaries could have been down by that much that year. I'd like to think that we're doing a lot better job of enforcing in 2018, but then that doesn't really look good for us for the other 4 years. So I like to think that it was more of an anomaly than anything else. And then, again, thefts, just regular thefts are down, but are consistent with the last couple years, 2018, 2019. As far as the domestics, a lot of that isn't necessarily that there's more occurring, but it also can lend itself to better reporting. So better advocacy services. So we have victims that are reporting more often and giving us the opportunity to investigate those. So unfortunately, domestic violent cases aren't one of those things that we really can proactively enforce. We really have to be reactionary to those. And so that really relies on the victim or an advocate of the victim reporting it to us so we can investigate it.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I also noticed there are a lot of mental health issues, aren't there? And our officers are really dealing with a lot of mental health issues too.
Yeah, that's correct. I think has been a steady increase in those types of calls. Certainly over the last 5 years, but I think you could go probably 10 years. There's been a steady increase in those types of calls. And part of the reason for that is the state putting the burden on the local municipalities to deal with mental health issues when they started decentralizing the mental health system. And so what that does is now makes police officers on the street, now they're being not only the enforcers of the law, but they're also now being psychologists or I shouldn't use that word because clearly we're not, but we're asked to do some of those things. And so to better prepare our officers for that, we've increased training in that. And the state's also mandated training in that area as well.
Thank you. I was just going to ask you that.
Yep.
Thank you, Tom.
You bet.
Chief Gifferson, this is Gary. Say, how is the distracted driving, cell phone use? How is that going about?
Great question. Thank you. Great law. But if you're in a squad car, everybody seems to comply. If I'm in my personal car, I see it all the time. So, but what our plan actually, the police department is beginning to be involved with the Towards Zero Death initiative that the state puts out. And what that does is provides overtime monies for extra patrol to enforce hands-free driving for one, but also DWI and other and seatbelt violations. We were going to have a wave coming up this spring dedicated to distracted driving, and then that was put on hold, obviously, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But we will be getting back to that as soon as we're able. But I would like to see that complied with a lot more than I do. But again, it's one of those things that's really tough for a patrol officer in a squad car to enforce, because you really almost have to see it by accident, or at least they don't see you coming before you can enforce it. Either that or the result of a crash or something like that. So we'll have to come up with some strategic ways to enforce that.
So what you're saying is that the distracted drivers are as smart as our turkeys?
Yeah, you got it.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions for Chief Gifferson? Steve, go ahead.
Chief, I was just wondering, since you're not presenting your slides that you had in the packet, but maybe share your what you consider the accomplishments in 2019, and then the goals for 2020. And then the last thing, kind of with the distracted driving, but several years ago, there was talk about having cameras at some of the intersections, and but there was, to catch people going through red lights or something like that. But apparently that wasn't allowed, or a state law got passed. Is anything more being done with that, or is that still not allowed? That's
Okay.
it. Thanks.
You bet. So I'll answer your second question first. That law, or that enforcement tactic, was found to be unconstitutional by the Minnesota Supreme Court. So I don't know that we'll ever be going back to that anytime soon. And I guess it just depends on which side of that you fall, but that's kind of the way it is. So, I don't see us going back to using that method anytime soon. So again, we have to just rely on some other enforcement tactics to do the same thing. But I'm glad you also brought up the accomplishments. I did want to talk to you briefly about that. Again, kind of a couple of things that I'm proud of. and I know the rest of the department's proud of, is we finally were able to establish our own Facebook page this year. Something that was a long time coming, and we were able to get that put together. We're still learning how to utilize it to the most effective way, but we definitely have gotten more exposure towards that, and it's helped us trying to solve crimes, crowdsourcing to get tips on certain crimes that have occurred within the city. So, and then also to dispel rumors that another popular Facebook site happens to put out. So, so it's worked good in that respect as well. And then I also thank the council, because there's many other accomplishments that came up this past year that were a direct result of the capital improvement plan that you all approve. So we were able to upgrade some necessary equipment that was almost 20 years old and certainly in need of replacement. So I thank you for that. But probably the one thing that I'm most proud of, and it was one of my initiatives taking this job, is promoting officer wellness. And so when you think about officer wellness, you're thinking about physical wellness. And so we did address that initially, changed the way we do our physical fitness assessment every year, well, actually twice a year. And we've gone to more of a one test. It's a rowing test. And you may think to yourself, well, what does rowing have to do with police work? We don't even have a boat. But there is a study out there out of the Texas Department of Public Safety, and they've certainly done their legwork with it, and it more accurately gauges the fitness of each officer based on the conditions that they would encounter in a high risk incident. So that's what we've transitioned to. It's legally defensible. They had partners in Texas that helped them develop it. So I'm confident in that. And the old system that we used was from the Cooper Institute, also in Texas, and they no longer promote law enforcement physical fitness. So it just made sense for us to do that. But the other part of officer wellness that we're working on promoting is psychological wellness, spiritual wellness, and then financial wellness. And if an officer is well in all those areas, then when they come to work, they're going to be more alert and they're going to do a better job when they're at work. So those are some of the accomplishments. And then as far as goals are concerned, this was actually a 2020 initiative, but started planning it in 2019, was to reestablish the Citizens Police Academy. So that was to start in January, February, I think first week of February. And we didn't receive enough applicants for that this year. So we're going to try again next year, or probably have it in the fall this year to try to attract a few more applicants. But we're also working with, or hope to work with Hutchinson High School's Tiger Path program and have that implemented or integrate that into the Tiger Path program. So they can actually get high school credit for going through our course. And again, that was in the planning stages when what we know of as a school year came to an end. So, but we will pick that up again as soon as we can. And again, I'm hoping to have that integrated into their program, hopefully this fall. Another thing that we're hoping to get taken care of, but hasn't been taken care of yet because of COVID-19, the League of Minnesota Cities has been working on a post-offer pre-employment physical fitness screening. That is required by post. And currently every agency in the state of Minnesota does something different, or at least has the ability to do something different. And what this is, the league is trying to standardize that process. And it's really to limit their risk for lawsuits for wrongful termination or not hiring somebody or discrimination, that type of thing. So I've sat on that steering committee for the last year. Hopefully that we'll be able to get that implemented here yet before the end of the year. I know Councilman Member Cook, we had discussions at an earlier city council meeting about a speed trailer or something to that effect. I'm still hoping to be able to implement something similar or something like that this year, depending on where our budget falls and that type of thing. But it is on one of my goals for the year. And then again, just to continue to improve the wellness program throughout the year.
Well, as far as the speed trailer, maybe work with Matt if you have to come back to the council for some funds. I don't know what the others feel about that, but maybe that could come out of some other discretionary funds that we have.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just, when it comes time to purchase it, I think we just have to look at, does it make sense in the grand scheme of things for the city, where we're at that time, and where the city's budget is considering current circumstances. But, and then just a couple other things. Obviously, the big one that's out there for a goal is the new police facility. So we're hoping to work with other employees within the city to get that going here, get the design process going, and hopefully have a clear path before the end of the year on that. And then we're looking at making some improvements to our training center, our regional training center. We were contacted by a private company who manufactures targets for law enforcement and the military, or target systems. And they wanted to partner with us, which looks like to be a pretty good deal for the city of Hutchinson. So I think we're going to be going ahead and doing that. And then also try to build some kind of a classroom storage facility out there as well.
Chief, this is Gary again. Just for the public, you want to touch on what a speed trailer is?
Sure. Well, I guess probably the easiest way to describe it is as a car or a vehicle approaches it, there's a radar inside of it, and it gauges how fast you're traveling, and then it displays the speed on an LED sign. So very similar to the signs that are on School Road currently, would operate in the exact same manner. The only difference with this one would be is that the hope would be is to get one that can also gauge traffic flow and that type of thing. So it can tell us when when peak traffic flow, what times of days, what days of the week, that type of thing. So.
Plus, it would monitor speeds as well, the way we talked before. So if there was concern that the street was seeing a lot of higher speeds going on it, this would be a way to really gauge that and see if that's true or not.
Yep, that's exactly right. It would document all the speeds on that roadway, time of day, day of week, what have you. And then there's also different modes. You can have it so it displays their speed. You can have it so it doesn't display their speed. So they make the assumption that it's not on, and it can also work in that manner. So
I think it would be helpful to be able to move that around. We've
Absolutely.
had concerns expressed different streets before. So.
Yep. Any other questions?
The only thing I'd like to say, Tom, is it was a good report. I enjoyed reading it, the good and the maybe not so good, but the overall perspective of the report was great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I will say is next year's report will look quite a bit different than what you're accustomed to seeing. Part of the reason for that is the federal government has changed the way that they are reporting crimes. So they're going away from the Unified Crime Report and they're going to what's called NIBRs. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but it's going to classify crimes in a different manner. So it'll look a lot different next year than it has this year.
Alrighty, thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right, moving on. Unfinished business, ordinance number 20-812. Ordinance suspending enforcement of the Hutchinson City Code Section 92.018 pertaining to hours of construction during the Truck Highway 15 Main Street Reconstruction Project. This is the second reading and adoption.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Like we discussed at the last council meeting, simply asking to pass ordinance to slightly revise our noise ordinance with respect to the construction activity on Main Street Highway 15 this construction season. Simply allowing the contractor to start work at 7 a.m. on Saturdays and allowing for some, I guess, forgiveness with respect to a concrete sign immediately after the concrete is placed. So with that, would I guess recommend approval of the proposed ordinance.
And make a motion to approve.
I'll second. It's Mary.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve. Roll call. Chad.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Gary. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. On to new business. Purchase of expert for the permanent display at the Hutchinson Library.
Mayor, Council, probably hand this over to Councilmember Cook, who represents the Public Arts Commission.
Okay, well, just saw I put a memo in the packet explaining the public arts thinking with this one piece. It's been a very popular piece. It's one that, you know, children, families, and adults appreciate and enjoy, and really goes well with the library. So they're just unanimous in wanting to ask the council's permission to purchase that statue and keep it in Library Square by the library as part of a permanent display. As I noted in the packet, the sale price is $14,000, but as part of the agreement with the artists, the city would get 25% commission on any sale. So if we take that 25% off, the price comes down to $10,500. And the Public Arts Commission would suggest that those funds come out of the Public Arts funds. I don't know if there's any other questions.
I think it's a great sculpture in the library, and it's very appropriate for our park downtown. Couldn't be in a better spot. Thank you. I agree. It's good.
I'd make a motion to approve.
I will second that.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve. Any other discussion on it? Roll call. Chad,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Gary, nay. Motion carries 4-1.
Gary, can I say one other thing with the sculpture stroll?
Yes.
Just as an update with that, with the pandemic and COVID-19, that's had a impact on some of the sculpture strolls around the region, and it's affecting ours as well. Several of the other art walks have been decided to keep their pieces for another year. That way it would help limit some of the interactions that are going on, for people and the social distancing. So we had two pieces that were planned to come here and that are not now for this year. And then we also had another piece that the artists informed us that they won't be bringing out because of the COVID-19. They're in the higher risk age group, and they just felt it was better, to stay at home and limit possible interactions as well. So Egbert, will just stay where he's at now. There was a piece that was planned to be put in that location, and Egbert, we thought we might move to a different spot in Library Square by the library. And then two other pieces, like I said, weren't coming. So the Public Arts Commission decided to extend an offer to the artists for The Farmer. That's the one that's currently at the Depot, Farmers Market, and then also the Flying Dutchman that's out along the trail, to keep them for another year to fill those two spots. And they both accepted to do that. We'll move them to different locations to kind of freshen it up and, just, allow people to see them in other venues. But again, just wanted to let you know that's what's been going on, and this is happening with other art walks around the region, like I said. So that's it. But thanks.
All right.
For Egbert.
Okay. Moving on, resolution number 15161, declaring the official intent of the city of Hutchinson to reimburse certain expenditures from the proceeds of the bonds issued by the city. Andy, we can't hear you. We still can't hear you.
How about now? I think I got it.
There you go. You're on.
Sorry about that. Well, what the resolution we have in front of you tonight is an annual process we go through as we issue tax exempt bonds each year. It's a little earlier this year because we're funding the Main Street project. Actually, on tonight's check register, we're paying MnDOT a little over $3.2 million this week. So the IRS requires us with tax exempt bonds to declare that we're going to reimburse costs that we've already incurred with those bond proceeds. So with that check going out to MnDOT this week, we really need to declare our intent. And this resolution that's in front of you tonight is estimating about $2 million that we will be reimbursing ourselves with bond proceeds. So with that said, just asking that you guys approve this resolution, and we'll move forward with our bond sale, most likely with a schedule that starts in early June.
The motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad to approve resolution number 15161. Roll call, Chad.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Gary. Aye. Motion passes. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
We have reports from committees, boards, and commissions. We have the Liquor Hutch Quarterly Report, the City of Hutchinson Financial Report and Investment Report for March of 2020. Hutchinson Housing Redevelopment Authority Board minutes from March 17th, 2020 and March 27th, 2020. Planning Commission minutes from February 18th of 2020. Matt, is Kent, John, or Tom, are they all there yet?
Yes.
Do they have anything else for us?
Yeah, Kent will have a couple things for you.
Alrighty.
Just to follow up quickly on Highway 22, Fifth Avenue South light that we've spoken about over, last fall. I think we talked a bit about it. It was brought up by Mayor Forcier. After it took us a while to get through MnDOT's somewhat elaborate and frustrating permit process, but in the end, we are on board to get that installed. E Squared will be installing that. Yeah, the bases might get poured here pretty quickly, and the light should be in by May 8th. So, or the two lights for that matter. So, we were able to finally work with MnDOT and make that happen. So that's a good thing. And then just simply on the Highway 15 Main Street front, yeah, things are going well in these interesting times. Just want to thank the contractor, MnDOT, city staff that are involved on that project. So we're off to a good start. Obviously a little bit of rain today, but with the sandy soils out there, they should be hard at it tomorrow right away again. So it's a good thing. Thank you much.
Thanks.
Hey, Kent, just a second.
Steve has something for you.
Kent, I thought I saw something that roundabout on Highway 7 by County Road 1 south of Winstead got approved. Yeah, is that true? And any idea when that would actually be installed?
I forget the year. It was approved in the district's transportation improvement plan. I believe 22 or 3. I'm not certain, but it was kind of a surprise. I think to myself and maybe even the county engineer that MnDOT is actually in the process of administering a Highway 7 safety study, basically east of Hutchinson to the Carver County line. So I thought that would be completed and finalized prior to them identifying projects out of that. But this project has been identified, and like I said, it is within the area transportation improvement plan.
Chad, did you have something for Ken?
Yeah, I was just wondering, when did you think that the contractor would be done with the phase that they're currently in on Highway 15 and move on to the next phase?
Yeah, they've already started the removals. Today, you might have noticed south of Washington Avenue, MnDOT's allowed them to get a jump start on that. That indicates they believe they're going to, proceed with the mainline sanitary sewer, water main, and then storm sewer installation through the Washington intersection and then into that first block of phase 3 to the south of Washington. My guess, having all the pipes in the ground and road bed and such, we're still probably looking at, and then ultimately the east-west crossing of Washington being temporarily paved. I believe we're still looking towards the end of May, which isn't too far away, obviously.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for Ken?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ken. Chief Gifferson, are you still there?
I am.
All right. I visited with Chief Gifferson because somebody approached me and asked me about a stop sign at Adams and Second Avenue it'd be to stop or Adams Street traffic. But with visiting with you and actually talking to the person again, you had alluded to that there was traffic controls a couple blocks down. So I just wanted you to touch on that a little bit.
Sure. Well, as you alluded to, we had that conversation late last week. I told you that we would monitor the intersection over the weekend to do somewhat of an informal survey, which we've done. There are times of the day where that intersection, I think more for the eastbound traffic, gets backed up. The most cars we saw there at any one time was 8 cars, but 6 to 8 cars is kind of in that ballpark. They do get backed up, but then they clear out almost as quickly as they get backed up. So I think what we talked about last week is, again, that there's that 4-way stop intersection at Adams and 5th, and there's also a 3-way stop intersection at Washington and Adams. So I guess more than anything, maybe what we can do is get the message out to the public that if you're trying to cross Adams Street, 5th Avenue is probably a better route than 2nd Avenue. And just for the traffic control access. And then that'll also improve the traffic flow, or at least leave the traffic flow on Adams Street constant. And I guess I don't know if you.
That covers it.
Yeah. It does back up, but for the most, I mean, over the weekend, there wasn't much of a backup there at all, but it does, you have the 3M traffic when it may get a little difficult to get across there. But
Gary, Kent and I did talk about it. My one concern, or our one concern is, somewhere in the future here, in the near future, 2nd Avenue is going to be closed down because of traffic. And so, it's never good to kind of put up and take down traffic control devices. And then on top of what Chief Gifferson said, you've got 2 controlled intersections that are both, a block or 2 away. And so I would just kind of agree that we just need to, enforce, or just make sure we communicate with the public to really use 5th Avenue as that crossing point.
Yeah, and the person I talked to kind of understood that concept too. So I just thanks for explaining it a little bit better, Chief. Yeah, Steve's got something for you yet. Go ahead,
Since we're,
Steve.
and it's not, maybe it's for Kent really, but it's regarding a stop sign, since you brought this up. But I was wondering, currently on Franklin or 2nd Avenue Northwest, I guess it's still Franklin, at 1st Avenue North by the Dairy Queen. There's a stop sign north and south, and then you have another one at 2nd Avenue, right? And I was just wondering if maybe that one with the construction going on now, maybe this is a time where the one at 1st Avenue North could be switched around, maybe have it at, stopping traffic going east and west. And my only reason for suggesting that is that Franklin and Hassan are considered kind of secondary roads or bypasses or whatever you want to call it, that would help free that up a little bit more. So that's all. Just wanted to put it out there as something maybe that could be looked at, or if it hasn't recently.
Well, I'll give my opinion on it first. I'd like to see it stay the way it is for now, only because we're seeing increased truck traffic on Franklin for semi trucks that maybe are either ignoring or missing the detour. And I just think that it's kind of a dangerous situation for people that are accustomed to the stop sign being one way, and now you have heavy truck traffic coming through the other way without a stop sign, and they're probably not accustomed to being on that roadway. So I think it's a recipe for disaster. So I think, and I'll let Kent share his.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Steve. I think it has to be looked at in a more holistic manner before we do something with respect to both Franklin and Hassan. And I think, yeah, there's some inconsistencies out there. You know, I think of the stop sign right outside the city hall here at Hassan and First, and there's still people that stop north-south, and that stop sign, those were switched probably 20-some years ago, is my understanding. But I think those corridors should be looked at in a holistic manner. I agree with Tom. We shouldn't touch it at this point. I just get leery. Also, with respect to the question Gary brought up and Matt alluded to, I think you have to be very cognizant of when you make a traffic control change with respect to a stop condition, and be very careful. And you don't want to do it on a temporary basis. I think people understand stop signs popping up when they're near or within a project area, like Second North and Highway 15. Now there's a new stop sign obviously across the bridge, but if you start implementing temporary stop signs in a four-way on Second and Adams per se, people will notice and see those stop signs during the day to some degree. I think at nighttime, that's when things get problematic, when people don't anticipate the stop sign and they hit that intersection. And I think that's the same story with respect to Hassan and Franklin. I believe there's room for improvements with respect to those stop signs, but we should do that in a manner that we study and better understand. And I think the opportunity will come when we get into reconstructing the downtown streets, the east-west streets primarily, and Hassan for that matter, in the not too distant future. We can take a look at that.
I know, go ahead, Mary.
Well, Kent and Tom, you can both answer this. When you address those things, will you look at the stop signs in the Shopko parking lot? You know, people go to the bank that way. I see people, they don't stop for those stop signs because they figure there's nobody walking there anymore. They just zip right on through. So.
Well, yeah, that's an issue right now that we've been trying to address with MnDOT, you know, with the unique location of Wells Fargo and how that's being accessed. I think, and I know Tom's officers have been out there and we're trying to discourage people from cutting through. I'll let Tom answer the question with respect to private property stop sign enforcement, but ultimately, if that continues to be an issue, and we almost hate to do this because we hate to further, you know, eliminate or, you know, discourage people from getting to Wells Fargo, ideally we'd leave that Shopko access point off of First Avenue North open to allow people to sneak into Wells Fargo from there. But if it continues to be an issue, the ultimate solution is just closing that Shopko access point off of First Avenue North. And anyone who wants to get to Wells Fargo either has to come across the bridge or come across on Second Avenue North and go east-west across Highway 15.
Yeah.
Second question, Tom?
Yeah, Kent answered it better than I could have. Stop sign Wells Fargo is private property. So it's very difficult for us to enforce a stop sign on private property. As a matter of fact, there's very few traffic laws that we can enforce on private property, unfortunately.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Kent, I appreciate that you talked about Hassan too, and that makes sense to look at both Franklin and Hassan. But, you know, for example, Third Avenue has the four-way stop there, and you have stop sign at Second, and you have one at Fifth then too. So it's kind of the same way as part of that through traffic. I think maybe the four-way was because the fire department was using Third more frequently, but now they've shifted more to Second Avenue, right? So that could be another one that could be looked at.
No, I agree, Steve. I think ultimately in the end, and we need to take a good look at it from consistency purposes and, you know, really make Second, Fifth, and Washington our primary east-west routes, and then make Hassan and Franklin our primary, obviously off of Highway 15 parallels, make those, primary routes, and then, ultimately what you're gonna arrive at is only stop signs, when those intersections, when those roadways intersect, excuse me.
Okay, thanks.
And not to take up any more of your time than I need to, but I just wanted to give you guys a stay-at-home order update. Again, kind of an unofficial survey that we've been trying to do since the weather has gotten nicer and the order's been in place. So we've had our bicycle patrol officers out in the parks on days where we anticipate there's going to be a high number of people out and about. And what we found is there are a lot of people utilizing the parks and the trails. We don't want to discourage people from getting out and exercising, but the playgrounds, for the most part, people are not using. So even though we've decided not to close the playgrounds, people are taking it upon themselves to keep away from those for the most part. I mean, you're going to, again, have those select few that do choose to use them. But for the most part, they're policing themselves on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right, Chad, why don't we start with you tonight?
I didn't have anything else.
Thanks, Chad. Mary?
I only have one thing. I just want to thank all those teachers that are working so hard to teach our kids and those parents that are at home helping their kids. I mean, what an amazing job they're doing. I mean, I'm pretty proud of that whole system and how it's working. That's it. Stay safe, everyone.
All right, thanks, Mary. Dave?
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Steve?
Just one thing for Matt. There's been discussion with just the COVID and impact on city budgets and how we're doing. And from the financial report for March, things were okay. But do you see anything one way or another?
Not so much right now. One of the things that I actually spoke with Andy about last week was we're going to start doing monthly reports where we're going to analyze revenue loss, but on top of that also expense savings as well. So we have a kind of a truer picture of how that's impacting the budget. We don't have obviously our first half tax payments don't come until June, July, and that's kind of still somewhat up in the air from what we're hearing. I was on a conference call last week. The governor claims that, he's not going to put on the table discussions on delaying or cutting LGA payments. So I think for the most part, we're sitting fine. It's really going to see how is this going to play out? How much longer is this going to last? We know it's impacting our Park and Recs budget, but we're also able to save a lot of expenses. And so I think that's going to end up being a wash. We might actually come out a little bit more positive depending on how that all plays out. But that's one of the instructions I've given to Andy is that just to get me a monthly report where we analyze some of those revenue losses and expense savings. And I've already had those conversations with directors as well as that, if there's things that we can wait a year or two, let's do that.
Thanks, that's all.
Thanks, Steve. Matt?
One thing I do want to note, since the chief was quite humble, one of the other accomplishments was that he came on as the new chief for the city. I think it was May 5th, so it's coming up on a full year here. And he's still here, so that's a good sign. So, but
But it's not on.
but that's obviously a big accomplishment from this past year as well. So, couple other things. Filing actually opens for the 3 new council positions on May 5th. So it's a week from today, I should say, the 2 council positions and the mayor. Right now, we're kind of waiting to see what the state guidelines are. We're essentially going to be preparing to proceed with that as normal, which may mean that people might have to just call us in advance to get their application to fill that out. But that starts May 5th, and that's good for 2 weeks, and then goes to May 18th. Filing is open. So we've got something out to the paper already on that, and we'll get something out on social media too. But that's coming up right around the corner. We have closed on the Econo Foods building. That was the Wednesday after, I think it was April 15th. That closing went well. And so like I said, we're now in ownership of that whole facility, and we'll begin kind of approaching our next phase in regards to that police station project. I did want to let you know that we are going to be starting back up the branding project. We're going to do that this week. I know kind of one of the subcommittees will be meeting on that. And so we'll start that process again to complete that project. And then just from the city standpoint, we're kind of waiting to see what takes place with either COVID-19 and the governor's stay-at-home order, but we're already starting to, at least prepare for opening things back up. Obviously, I have no clue what's going to happen, but we're starting to, prepare for that next phase of wherever this takes us. That's it from me.
I gotta apologize to Mark. I skipped him. Does he have anything for us?
He says no. Imagine that. So.
Well, now I'm sure he's upset that I skipped him. That's probably why he don't want to talk now.
Well, he is walking out the door, so, but I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, you want to touch a little bit on the census deal? Have people make sure they get the census done? Very important.
Yeah, obviously it is important. A lot of that plays into federal funding, state funding. So just encourage the public to, if they haven't filled out their census, to do that. I think there was a report that was out 2 weeks ago where Minnesota was one of the leading states in filling it out, but it was only like at 56%. So there's still obviously a need to get more of that in. And so we try to get the word out, but just a reminder is to fill out that census and get that information. And it's helpful for the city and obviously for the state as well.
Alrighty, thanks, Matt. The only thing I've got is, I know I've touched on this a few times, but I think it's something that we got to keep reminding our older generation that if there's a lot of scams out there, it seems like every other day I hear of somebody getting taken by a scam. So if you have any, if you're unsure of something, get a hold of the police, get a hold of somebody that you can really trust, because there's a lot of scammers out there right now. I've been hearing more and more on that. So with that, that's all I have. So yes, Steve.
You just mentioned the census, and I'm glad you brought that up. But again, not sure when that's due yet to be turned in, but would it pay to add some more reminders on social media and something in a water bill? There's time to do that.
It was actually due April 1st. Or April, somewhere in that first week in April. So, but yeah, we can we've been posting some stuff on social media, but we can even throw something on the water bill. That's fine.
I thought didn't they extend it, Matt?
That's
I
what
thought
I was
they
gonna
did.
say.
Oh, they might have. They very well may have. I mean, that was the original deadline. So I think they really kind of go throughout the whole summer. I know, because the next phase will be some of that door knocking and
Right.
And that. So, but I think you're right. I think they maybe did extend that mail in. Might have been a whole nother month. I don't recall off the top of my head, but that's something we can look into and get that word out.
Alrighty, thank you, Matt. everybody. If anybody or nobody has anything else, let's adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second it. Motion by Mary, second by myself to adjourn. Roll call, Chad,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Steve.
Aye, and good job, everybody. This worked pretty well. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Gary, aye. We're adjourned.